Greetings, everyone. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to another episode of T Grush Realty. I hope I can be seen. I hope I can be heard. I know I haven't been on here for a while, so I wanted to come on and address my real estate audience, you all. So let's talk about it. The title of this video says Home Ownership is a Mindset. And what do we mean by home ownership is a mindset? So, first of all, you have to know that you want to be a homeowner. So, there are so many misconceptions on social media that I've been seeing about how people have decided to purchase and they regret purchasing their homes. They regret it. They want to go back to renting. They're crying, they're complaining, they're whining. But for the people that understand the value of homeownership and that want to be homeowners, this message is for you. So I want to say, don't get discouraged. Right now, the market is kind of sort of like houses aren't selling as quickly. So this is actually, I would say, an advantage for the buyer. Um, so the buyer is more likely able to negotiate in this instance. And sellers are willing, sometimes to pay closing costs, to throw in some extra incentives because they want to get this house sold, right? There are a lot of buyers, a lot of people out here that don't qualify for a lot of buyers, a lot of people out here that don't qualify for home. Getting a phone call, getting a phone call. Let me every time I go live. So, like I said, there are a lot of people that don't know how to start the process in home ownership. So, the first thing that a lot of people do that I've run into is they just get in their car and they start blindly looking at houses. They go from neighborhood to neighborhood, just looking. And sometimes they'll drift into open houses, but they don't really understand or know what their spending power is. So that's very important. The first step, number one, is you have to have discipline, okay, when it comes to purchasing a home. So if you're not financially disciplined, this is not going to work for you. So there might be things you might want to cut back on, such as, people like to throw in the Starbucks coffee, but like what do you do, that you can cut out? Like, are you spending your money in places that you can cut back on? So getting your nails done, spending a lot of money on nails, spending a lot of money on hair. Can you do your own hair? Do you have to go and buy shoes or can you use the shoes that you already have? Things like that will help you and take that money and put it into your savings account. Also, do you have a retirement account? Do you have a 401k? Do you have a 403b? What do you have as far as terms of savings? You should already have a savings anyway for emergency funds, but also if you do have a 401k, your job will allow you to withdraw those funds for down payment money. And just in case you didn't know, if you have a credit score of 640 or higher, raise your hand if you have a credit score of 640 and higher, because chances are you can qualify to purchase. Number two, have you had steady income for the last 2 years? And steady income could be 1099, straight 2 years of 1099, or have you had 2 years of being a W 2 employee? So it has to be one or the other. It can't be combined. A lot of people get misconstrued on that. And your business has to show that you filed taxes for 2 years straight. The last 2 years, you have to have filed taxes. Okay. So if you have not filed taxes in the last 2 years, then you're going to have to go ahead and take care of that. Also, bank statements. That's another thing that your lender will request from you unless you're going to be purchasing your home in cash. Now, if you have cash on hand and you want to go ahead and, pay for the house in cash, you don't have to go through these measures. But a lot of people don't have this amount of money to go and fund a house. So this is why they got to go through the lender. And it's perfectly fine. Most of us didn't have 300, 400, 200, $500,000 in cash for a house. So once you have these components in place, now you're ready to start looking at what you can afford. So, like I said, the first step that you want to do is if you connect with a realtor. What's good, Aura, Skitter, Daniel? How are you all doing? Thank you for coming in and joining. So if you connect with a realtor, more than likely the realtor is going to refer you to a lender, because we have to know your spending power before you're actually able to start go looking at homes. All right. And the real estate commission has actually made a rule stating that as a realtor, we can no longer show you houses without you signing a buyer agency agreement with the realtor. So it's not a contractual agreement, it's just an agreement saying, hey, we are working with one another and I have the right to represent you. Now, the agreement can be terminated by the agent if we feel that this is not a good fit, and it can also be terminated by the client if the client feels this is not a good fit. All you have to do is ask for an agent, a termination of agency, okay, and we can get that drafted and sent to you right away. So some people think that just because they've signed documents with the realtor, they're stuck with that realtor if they don't like the realtor. That's not true, but this happens because a lot of times people don't know their rights, okay. So that's another caveat, just in case you want to know. So once you've connected with the realtor, you're going to connect with the lender, and the lender is going to ask for those documents from you. W-2, last 2 years of taxes, and bank statements for like 90 days. Now, during this time, you're going to get a pre-approval letter, okay, if you qualify, because you need a credit score of at least, I think it's like a 625. I would say at least a 640. And for those of you that live in North Carolina, okay, now this could be different in your state. We have a program called House Charlotte that actually will give you up to $145,000 total in down payment assistance, and they're stackable. So there are three different programs that you can qualify for, contingent upon that you have a 640 credit score. And if you don't have a 640 credit score, it's okay. Work with your lender to get you there, because credit goes up easily. It's so many things you can do to get your credit up like this. People get so scared when they hear the word no, they just give up. We don't give up over here. We don't give, because every client of mine, if they wanted to get a house, we made it to the closing table. I can assure you that, and I promise you that. So they didn't give up on me. I didn't give up on them. We had no termination of agency agreements, and we made it successfully to that closing table. And some of my clients, it feels good when they still reach out, when we still have a good rapport. I love it. I love it. I love it, y'all. So my goal is to create economic ownership, which means be the CEO, create economic ownership, CEO. How do we create economic ownership? By becoming business owners and owning homes. Business owners owning homes, owning real estate, owning land, commercial, whatever type of property you're looking for, I can assist with that, okay? Even if you want to sell your home, you're still an owner of that home. So you get to dictate some of the terms when it comes to navigating that transaction. Now, if you are a renter, then chances are you don't have a lot of say so over your circumstances, and chances are the landlord is dictating everything that goes on within your dwelling. So you can make a choice. Do you prefer to be a landlord, or do you want to be a tenant? Do you want to be a tenant or a landlord? It's just up to you. You can be a homeowner or you can be a renter, and whatever fits your needs, whatever fits your circumstances, go along with it. That is strictly up to you. Um, I'm not here to bash one over the other, because I know a lot of times people get caught up in their feelings and emotions when people talk about, oh, you're throwing your money away in rent. And yes, this can be the case, but some people are not financially ready to purchase. So until you get there, make strides to save money, and it takes financial discipline. Okay, it doesn't take long at all, especially if you have a regular steady job. You can easily get this done, y'all. You can get it done. You just discipline yourself and you'll be there in no time. Another thing, okay, so you've got your pre-approval letter. So this pre-approval letter is given to you by the lender. You're going to share this with your realtor. What's good, Mr. Perfect? Nick, Abe, Lisa, the Weddy. How are y'all doing? Lisa, nice to see you. So by the time you get your pre-approval letter, the realtor needs to have that so that we can definitely, what's good, Tim? so that we know that you are actually pre-approved. Now, pre-approval is different than a pre-qualification. Pre-qualification means nothing in the real estate world. A pre-approval means something to the realtor and the lender. So there's a difference. You want a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification. Pre-approval is given to you by the lender once they look at your finances. They've actually taken a deep dive into your credit history and seeing what you have going in, what you have coming out, and how much home or the price point that they think you can afford. Now, you can give your lender a budget. You can give your realtor a budget and say, hey, I don't want a house payment that's over this amount. I don't want a house that's over this amount. And that's perfectly fine. So once you do that, yourself and the realtor, what's good, Jillian, y'all are going to connect. And you start setting up, dates and times on what houses you want to go visit. Now, keep in mind, you, depending on your price point, you're going to have to be, open-minded. You can't be closed-minded, especially if you're first-time home buyer. You cannot go for the gusto. So make sure, what's good, Manuel, make sure that you have an open mind when you're looking at homes. I'm not saying you have to sacrifice everything, but you already know that when you're dealing with finances, you have to stick to your budget. What's good, King Raymond? All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to sign paperwork. Okay. We're going to sign a buyer agency agreement. We are going to sign a working with real estate agency agreement. And that just dictates how I'm able to represent you as a client. So it just says this paperwork. How are you doing, Lauren? The paperwork stipulates, okay, I am not going to be representing you and the seller at the same time. That's called dual agency. Sergio Santilla, what's good? So if you don't want me practicing dual agency, I'm not going to do that because I would not have the ability to represent you at full capacity. So it's kind of like a lawyer that represents the defendant and the defendant and the victim at the same time. So we don't want to practice dual agency, but we can practice designated dual agency. What's good, Geraldine? And what that means is I am designated to represent you exclusively so that I have your best interests. Okay. And then if I find a house and it's under the same firm as mine, I can show you that house, but I am not working with that seller. I'm only working with you as the buyer. So we're going to, speak about our negotiations separate from the seller, and we'll go to their agent and we'll have them to represent the seller in this transaction. It was good, Charlene. GMAC. All right. So all of that is taken care of. And the reason I'm breaking it down is because a lot of people don't understand the concept of how this works. I've seen a lot of buyers reach directly out to the seller's agent, not understanding that as a buyer, if you don't have representation and you don't have a realtor and you go, what's good, honeybee, you go reaching out to that other agent that's representing the seller, you're actually not doing yourself any justice because they're representing the seller. They don't represent you. Jason Dowdy. Um, so it's good to have your own representation outside of the seller. It's just like going into a court of law. If you're the victim, if you're the plaintiff, you don't reach out to the defendant's attorney to represent you. Okay. That's the same thing that I see people do in real estate. They will want to purchase a home and they'll go and be like, I want to just talk directly to the seller's agent. Okay. Well, the seller's agent is going to have whose best interest at heart? That seller, right? So think about that before you make these decisions. And then if you don't have representation, how are you going to handle the paperwork in the real estate transaction? So you're not going to understand the contract agreement. We have been trained and we have worked with this paperwork over and over again. And then we have a whole plethora of significant experience of team members behind us. Not to mention, we have something called error and omissions insurance, which allows us to reach out to attorneys on our clients' interests so that we can practice real estate law according to how it's supposed to be practiced, putting your needs first as the client. So all of these things are what you get when you work with a licensed realtor in your state. Now, let's talk about, you have your agency agreement. You're going to look at houses. We need to narrow this thing down. We got to know your price point. We got to know what area you're looking in. And please keep in mind that depending upon your price point is going to determine what locations you can purchase in. Okay. So we cannot think that with a $350,000 budget, we can go look at $500,000 houses, because if that's not what the lender approved you for and you can't go up to that budget, it's no need in even looking at those homes. So we have to get that through our heads. We also have to determine what type of market we are in. Are we in a seller's market? Are we in a buyer's market? And that's also going to dictate how fast these homes are taken off the market. I've seen houses go on to the market and get taken off that same weekend. So dictate how fast these homes are taken off the market. I've seen houses go on to the market and get taken off that same weekend. So when it comes to matters of real estate, you have to act swiftly and quickly while making a very informed decision. This is why you need a licensed realtor by your side to point out things that you might not think about when you're viewing this house. I would strongly suggest to take pictures, take video, take notes, all right, of these homes that you're going to see, because sometimes they all start running together and you may forget things. Um, Another thing, I would strongly suggest not to listen to people that are going to discourage you. Okay. If you've already gotten this far in the process and you've gotten pre-approved, then that means that you're about to be a homeowner. You're about to have a house. You're no longer going to be a tenant. You're no longer going to be a renter. Okay. The landlord, you don't have to deal with that anymore. You're about to go into a new avenue of life. So let's start focusing on that. Stay away from the naysayers. Stay away from the family members, the relatives, the outside people that have never owned a home before, never purchased, but they're telling you that's not a good idea. I heard such and such had this type of situation. All invite you to co-host. I don't know. Sean saw, I don't know who this is. Sorry. So I don't know what that means. You asked me to co-host. I'm not co-hosting. I'm hosting this right now. So anyway, moving along. What's good, Arnando? You got to stay focused is what I'm saying. All right, so we're staying focused. We're going out. We're scheduling times to go see these homes. We're looking at the homes. Finally, you find a house. And guess what? If you find this house, you want to go see it again. Okay, so your interest is built up. This house checks off the things on your list. It has the bedrooms. It's the layout that you like. It feels like home when you go here. You like the neighborhood. You like the yard. Everything checks off on your boxes. Now, you might not get every single thing on your Christmas wish list, okay? So that's why I said have an open, flexible mind. But you say yes to this house. So now this is when it all starts to, everything begins here, okay? So the countdown begins. All right, we find this house. So now what I would do as your licensed realtor is, okay, would you like to put in an offer? You say yes. Now I'm going to go ahead and get your offer drafted. That means I am going to fill out the offer to purchase contractual agreement, and you will read over it. We'll go over it together, and then you will sign it. Okay. We're going to write an offer letter to the seller's agent. I will ask you to look over it. Does this look okay? Anything you want me to add? Blah, 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 blah. My offer is accepted. Okay. So we send it over to the seller's agent. They have about 3 days to accept. All right. Usually, and if you don't want to wait for 3 days, we can put a time limit on that offer. We can say we need an answer in 24 hours. If we don't have an answer in 24 hours, we're going to look at other houses because we don't have time to wait. Time is of the essence in real estate. Okay. This could be a hot, demanding market. We're on the move. So that seller's agent is going to say, hey, my client either accepts the offer or we're going to counter this offer. When they counter the offer, that means, hey, if you come up $5,000 more, or if you do X, Y, and Z, then offer is accepted. So depending on the contingencies, right, and the negotiations, we can go back and forth. All right, now let's say that there's a multiple offer situation. I can ask the other agent, hey, do you have multiple offers or any offers on this home before we even write up the offer to purchase contract, so that we're not getting our hopes built up too much. And that agent can say, yes, there are multiple offers. Yes, I've received an offer, or yes, but we're waiting on a more stronger offer. That tells me that we got to come a little harder. Okay. So then I will go back to my team of experts, we're all an expertise in this field, but it's two heads are better than one, right? So I might go to another agent. I might say, here, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And we come to a commonality and an agreement. I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm going to come back to you as the client. I'm going to say, look, this is what we talked about. I took it back to my team, and we feel you should do X, Y, and Z in order to get this home, because they have, some other offers that are floating out there, but they're not as strong. And I think if you do this, your offer might be accepted. So I've had this happen. And guess what? We had multiple offers and our offer got accepted, y'all. It's such a great feeling. So once we put our offer out there, we're going to wait. We hear back from the agent. The agent's going to say yes or no. So when they send us that acceptance, we're gonna, okay, our due diligence process starts. Okay, so now time is ticking, because now we have to do our inspections, we get an appraisal, we do all the things. The financing has to be secured to make sure that you can secure this home. So we're going to do an inspection on the home to make sure that there are no underlying circumstances that we can't see. Okay, so the inspector is going to come in. They're going to say, hey, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be tended to. All these things are going to be checked in the home. It's safety violations, roofing. They're going to look up on the roof. They're going to look at any water leaks. They're going to be checking plumbing, electrical. All these things are going to be checked by the inspector before you purchase. This is if you're not dealing with new construction. And even if you're dealing with new construction, you still should get an inspection on a new construction home. All right. So we go through that process. We get an appraisal done, and an appraisal is done on the home to make sure that they are not price gouging that house. I'm also going to do what's called a CMA. This is a comparable market analysis for you to make sure that I compare the price point of this home to the other homes in that surrounding neighborhood that is just like it or similar to it, to make sure you're getting a fair deal for the price point of that home. So that will be provided by me, okay? And we'll look at that. And we'll make sure that, and that's actually done before we make the offer, y'all. The CMA report is done before we make the offer. So I will tell you what my strong opinion is, what you should offer on that home. That happens. Inspections are taken care of. You might get a termite inspection. You can get a radon inspection, especially if you live around water. You can get a radon inspection, mold test. There are so many different things. If you have, a well, septic, all of these things are checked. All right, so now we get into negotiations. Maybe some things came back on the inspection report we need to tend to. We're going to take this back to the seller's agent and say, hey, the inspector found these things on the list. These are the things that my client would like fixed, or you can give them money for these items to be fixed. What would your client like to do? So the seller's agent is going to take it back to their seller and say, hey, these are the things that they found on the inspection report. We need to address these. What are you willing to do? That seller will then come back and say, hey, we'll give you $5,000 for paint, $5,000 for carpet, or whatever it is. We're going to go ahead and get a licensed contractor, and I will put in there licensed contractor to come out and fix whatever this situation is. They will go ahead and get it fixed. They'll show the receipt. We can move on. Now it's time to set a closing date. What date works for you? What date would you like to close? What date could you take off from work, y'all? Closing date is here. Now we try not to close on a Friday because, we got to, the deed and everything has to be recorded on record before you can get your keys. So we don't want any holdups. So we try to do our closings like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday at the latest. Now I have closed on a Friday, but that was because of underlying circumstances that had nothing to do with me. This has something to do with the client, but we got it done. I work with an excellent lender that made sure that he was able to close, y'all. But yeah, so what's good, Sherry Houston, GOB. So now we are ready far into this process. This is what's called the due diligence period. And now also you have to give the seller due diligence money to hold that home and take it off the market. All right. What you're doing is paying the seller a check or you're giving them funds to pull that home off the market specifically for you so that you can do your inspections. You don't want any other clients coming thinking they're about to take your house and snatch it away from you, right? Because they've already accepted your offer. So you want to make sure that you secure this thing. So we have to give them a due diligence check payable to the seller. Okay, you're also going to give them what's called earnest money deposit, and that is held in escrow. Okay, and is not paid out to anyone. It's held in escrow. We're going to pick out a title attorney, and the attorney's office is going to run a title search that goes back 30 years. Okay, in the state of North Carolina, it goes back 30 years to make sure there are no liens on this property, making sure that you're able to take hold of this title on this property. So as long as the title is clear, we're good. What we're waiting on now is for the lender to run all their financial checks and everything, because they're going to pull your credit not once, not twice, but 3 times, thrice. They're going to pull your credit about 3 times to make sure you can secure this property. When we get that email that says clear to close from the underwriting department and from the lender, because there are a lot of things going on in the background that you're not privy to. We are working diligently behind the scenes. And so I don't know why you're inviting me to co-host. So decline, okay? Do not send me any requests to co-host, y'all. So we're working behind the scenes, and the realtor is like, stop sending me this. The realtor is like a conductor. She orchestrates, or he orchestrates. We orchestrate this whole thing. We are reaching out to the attorney. We got to find a closing attorney for you. And usually you can pick your own closing attorney, but a lot of times this is not something that you're thinking about. Most buyers are not sitting there thinking about, oh, what closing attorney am I going to go to? So we already have a list that we work with, and we already have this stuff on deck. We already have inspectors on deck. We can recommend you, but it's up to you to pick and choose your vendors. Okay. So just always remember that. We already have this stuff in order. We picked the closing attorney. We picked the closing date. Hey, we asked the seller's agent and the seller, does this work for you? That works for them. So we've all reached a closing date. As long as you do your part as a buyer, as long as you keep cooperating, do what you need to do. Pay for your inspections, okay, because you're going to need money for that. Pay for the things that you need to pay for. You have your down payment money. Maybe you have your down payment assistance secured because you're qualified for these down payment approval programs. You need your closing costs. Maybe the lender is going to pay the closing costs. Maybe you have the seller might opt to pay some of your closing costs. However, you got to make sure all your funds are secured, and the lender's going to tell you everything that you need on what date and how you need to make those payments. Okay. So we got all this stuff taking place. Finally, closing day is getting here. You're going to get what's called a CD, which is a closing disclosure 3 days before closing. It's required by law. All right. And this is going to basically delegate how all your funds are delegated in this transaction. So if you have any questions, you can ask your lender. Okay. That is by law. And we have to give, well, the lender has to have that given to you. All right, if you have any questions, you can ask me about it. I will get back to you on anything that you have a question about. That's what we're here for, to represent you in the transaction. Now, closing is here. I'm going to already have a closing gift for you. I have it already ready. I got a card. I'm congratulating you. Closing day is here. I already got my closing outfit picked out. I've called you. We got the date and the time. We're going to meet at the closing attorney's office. Now, technically, your realtor does not have to attend closing with you, but because I like for the client to feel like they have representation and support, I always attend closing with the clients. But there are some realtors that don't attend the closing, and they'll have another realtor to step in for them in case they're not able to make it. But you technically don't need your realtor there for closing. I just think it's good practice because we've worked together all this time. I want to see you at the closing table. I want to see you sign those documents, y'all. All right. And so I'm going to make sure I ask them, when do you think we can expect to receive the keys? Because more than likely, you're already going to have your stuff in a U-Haul. You're already going to have like things packed. You're already having stuff in storage. You already picked a closing date, a moving date. So we want to make sure we don't have any delays. We want to make sure you get those keys. They're going to probably tell me, okay, they can expect to get their keys, so great. We've never had a problem getting keys in the past, thank goodness. Now, closing is here. Meet with the closing attorney. It doesn't take long. We might have, closing takes about 45 minutes, maybe to an hour. You sign a lot of documents, a lot of paperwork. The closing attorney is going to go over the stipulations of your loan. Make sure that you understand everything that is signed. They are going to notarize it right there on the spot. And I'm just there with you, to help you, support you through the process. Now, ding, 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 everything's done. You get your keys. That means the house is yours. You are now a homeowner. This is how it goes, y'all. We are going to make sure that you already have like a garage door opener, the things that you need for the home. You're going to have your keys. Make sure you have garage door openers for the garage. If it's a pre-built, if it's new construction, you should not have to worry about these things. But all that stuff should be taken care of and secured. And then I am going to give you your closing gift. Congratulations. And hopefully you'll give me some good reviews. We've had a wonderful, transaction. We've had a good rapport. I enjoyed working with you. If you have any clients in the future, please feel free to send them my way. I would love to take care of them, and I'm going to be checking on you. Want to see how your house is coming along. I'm going to still send you market analysis reports on your home as time goes on, so you can see how you're building up equity in your home. So you might be in your home for about a year. Oh, bam, bam. Guess what? I got $20,000 in equity. What? I didn't know that when I become a homeowner, I can gain $20,000. That's quicker than a 401k on a job for 1 year. 2 years, oh my gosh, I got $30,000 in equity. Are you serious? 3 years, $35,000, and it keeps growing and growing. And that's how real estate works, y'all. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video. You can subscribe or whatever, join. I don't know how TikTok works all the way. If you are in the Charlotte market, Charlotte, North Carolina, that is, you can reach out to me. If you have real estate questions, I'd love to help you. But I have to go, y'all. I have so much to do. I am already behind in my day. What's good? What's good, everyone? I hope you enjoyed this video. I am signing out. This is your real estate queen. Remember to be the CEO of your financial future. Create economic ownership, y'all. Be a homeowner. Own a business instead of being an employee and a renter and having a landlord. All right, I'm signing out, y'all.